the Center for Youth Wellness, who will be leading us through a trauma-informed training specific to COVID-19, re-engagement with youth, and then again coming back to lead us through a training post-engagement with youth. And what I mean by re-engagement and post-engagement, that's after we interact with youth in the space, so in our club spaces. Today we have Carissa Luckett as the facilitator, who will be leading us through this experience. So before I pass it off to her, if everyone could just go around and just do a brief introduction, your name, your role, and what club you're associated with, and we'll go from there.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Brightwell. I'm the Vice President of People and Culture, and I work at headquarters.
I'm Taylor McLean. I'm the Program Coordinator at the Wilson Club in Auburn Hills.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Sula. I am the Club Director of the Belleville Club, also known as the Donahue Club. Yeah.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is LaRue Brown. I'm the Club Director at the Wilson Club.
Hello, Jeanette Kwiatkowski, Boys and Girls Club Director at the 509 Club in Highland Park.
Chris Kyles, Area Club Director, Dow Campus.
Janae Graham, Program Coordinator, Dow Campus, Detroit, Michigan.
Get excited, like, yes, let's go. Well, cool, man.
Do I have anybody else on?
Hey, this is Gavin McGuire. I serve as the COO of the organization.
Celia Thierry, Club Director of Tricks Academy Club, Detroit.
Hey, this is Anthony Strickland. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing and Public Relations for B&GCSM.
Sweet. Well, I'll pass it over to Carissa. Briefly, before I pass it over, Tiffany Brightwell or Gavin, do y'all want to say anything?
Well, I appreciate this training because it's a really important time right now. So I'm looking forward to learning and just making sure that we know everything we need to know to take care of our youth.
Awesome. All right, Carissa, you're up. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Russell. I appreciate that so much. And thank you all for introducing yourselves to me. I'm going to go over the objectives really quickly and tell you a little bit about myself, and then we're going to dive in. So today we're just going to quickly review the ACEs science and toxic stress, and then I'm going to talk briefly about the principles of trauma-informed organizations and practices. I'm only going to cover that briefly today because I really want to have a more in-depth discussion about the stress response regarding COVID-19 on your community members, so we can then talk about specific strategies for you to use as you're opening back up. And then we'll talk briefly about what you'd like to know more about in the next session. But please know that in our next session, after you have opened, I'll talk much more in depth about trauma-informed care principles. I just really want to focus on making sure you've got some strategies today to help you as you open up. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a nurse and a social worker. I joke with people all the time that I don't really know what I want to be when I grow up yet. I still sort of want to be a lawyer and an FBI agent and go into criminal justice, but maybe that's for another lifetime. I've been a nurse for over 25 years. Yes, I did start when I was like 12, clearly. And I've had the pleasure of working with CYW since 2016. I'm a mother of a 15-year-old daughter, and I am a dog lover. I have actually worked with adolescents my entire nursing career, kids and adolescents, and I just enjoy them so much, which is a wonderful thing since I have a 15-year-old right now. It's coming in handy. I want to talk a little bit, just one slide to tell you who CYW is and what we're about. The Center for Youth Wellness was founded in San Francisco by Dr. Nadine Burke Harris. I hope you've heard of her. She is an inspiring communicator and thought leader, and is now our first Surgeon General of the state of California. She's got a wonderful book out called The Deepest Well, where she chronicles some wonderful case histories of adverse childhood experiences and childhood trauma. So the Center for Youth Wellness really works with communities to help address toxic stress and adverse childhood experiences, to help communities heal and grow. We have kind of a new model we call the ecosystem, which you're seeing in front of you, where we partner with community members to build and wrap around services around families and children in need, to really promote and honor their experiences and promote and honor healing and resilience. We know that the community has many times everything they need to heal their own community. Sometimes they just need a partner to come in, either from the outside or from the inside, to help make those connections. And that's really what we're about, to help provide the connections between the cross sectors and stand with you and honor your journey as you work to really address resilience and trauma-informed care. So let's talk a little bit about ACEs. So in an original study with the CDC and Folletti, paper published many years ago, there was a discussion and research that showed that there are 10 core adverse childhood experiences that are predictive of long-term health outcomes that are negative. And we see those 10 experiences represented here before you in the area of abuse, both physical, emotional, and sexual, neglect, both physical and emotional, and then what we call household instability items, which are mental illness in the family or in the household, a relative that's been incarcerated, substance abuse. Today, we more traditionally look at domestic violence, not just mothers. We know that other partners of any sexual orientation and gender can be treated violently. And we also consider not just divorce, but parental relationship separation, an ACE as well. So those are the 10 original core ACEs, and those are the things we continue to study today when we offer an adverse childhood screening using the PEARLS tool or the ACE-Q. We also we know that ACEs alone do not create the entire reality for many children and families in our communities. So not only are the core 10 ACEs present, but we also know that there are a lot of issues that are faced around social determinants of health and community environments. So in our framework, we also look at 7 items that address things like discrimination, housing, violence, poverty, to get a better picture of the entire experience a person may be going through. And that score altogether, if you will, the score or the number of ACEs, helps to predict in some fashion the likelihood of negative health outcomes. But we also want to make sure that we share a couple of things with people as we talk about ACEs and make sure that we share this with you. I'm sure you have no doubt as you think back across your life, ACEs are incredibly common. 2 out of 3 adults have at least one ACE. And we know that as we look at the national picture from information from 2017, about 50% of the country has not only one ACE, but when you add together the 2 ACEs, we're looking at almost 50% of the country that have experienced at least one ACE in their first 17 years of life. Now that's important because as we see more than 4 ACEs, 4 or more, we see health outcomes, negative health outcomes rise exponentially. So you can see from this slide, when there's a presence of 4 or more ACEs, you're 2 times more likely to have heart disease, cancer, and a stroke, 11 times more likely to have Alzheimer's. And the thing that is most troubling to me at the very bottom, with 4 or more ACEs, you're 30 times more likely to commit suicide. So this is the national data. What I'm sharing with you now, you know and experience. I'm sure you know this all too well, but I just wanted to share some of the data we pulled from Detroit. As we look at your community membership with Detroit versus Michigan, you have a greater population with one ACE and certainly a much more profound population represented with 2 ACEs at almost 40% versus your state at 22% and the nation of 19%. And these are those health outcomes specific to the whole state of Michigan. So again, when we see increased ACEs, we do see the odds ratio or the likelihood of the conditions listed here going up. And we know that there is some correlation between ACEs and negative health outcomes. And that's why early intervention is so critical, and we are so proud and pleased to be partnering with you, given your mission to make sure the kids are healthy and productive. That we strongly support that, and you're the perfect kind of partner for this type of work. So just a little discussion about the reality of toxic stress. I know I've said that term a couple of times. So, I think about stress, and I'm asking you to think about stress on a spectrum. So positive stress, I'm sure you all remember having a test at school when you were a kid. That little bit of positive stress, which probably didn't feel positive in the moment, but that little bit of positive stress actually causes your body to release glucose to the brain so that you can think more clearly, think more rapidly. And it's a change in your body that's temporary. There may be hormones that are released, but it's a short state of excitement, and your coping and your confidence levels when you handle those stressors positively, or at least with even a positive support around you, can be a good experience for the child overall. It's short-lived, so just think about that. Tolerable stress is when the body's response is a little bit more long-lasting. You may need a little bit more support from friends and family during a time where there's a little bit more prolonged stress. And that can be in time of an injury or an illness or a natural disaster. For some families, this experience during COVID-19 may have been tolerable stress. It just depends on how many buffers and how many resources and support systems they've had during this time. There's no doubt it's been difficult for all of us. And then toxic stress is when your body's response to stress is long lasting and serious because you don't have the support of a caregiver or supportive person in your life, and your body forgets how to turn off those normal responses to stress via hormones and rumination and overthinking. And over time, this can cause those lifelong changes to your health and actually change the way your body and brain think and deal with everyday events all the time. So this is about as scientific-y as I'm going to get. But I just wanted to demonstrate, have a slide that really talks to you about the ways and the areas of dysregulation that are affected by toxic stress. So when that toxic stress occurs, which you see up here at the top, oftentimes the body is impacted in the neuro, the brain centers with the hormone regulations, your endocrine system with your cortisol levels, and your immune system. So that chronic stress can cause inflammation, and ultimately the clinical implications can be both neurological with psychiatric and behavioral changes, memory loss. Via the endocrine system, it can cause weight gain, diabetes, metabolism issues, other hormone regulation issues, including reproductive issues. And on the immune cascade side, it can cause that chronic inflammatory issue, which can also often be represented with things like eczema or asthma or cardiovascular disease, colitis, things, chronic inflammation in your in any of your systems, but particularly respiratory, skin, that type of thing. And ultimately, if those changes persist, it can impact and change your genetic material. So then we can pass that toxic stress dysregulation onto our children. So multi-generational impact of toxic stress is not an uncommon thing. This is one of my favorite slides. This is actually from a group out of Canada called the Alberta Family Wellness Organization. And this just is demonstrating that not all individuals experience toxic stress given the same negative experiences. The fulcrum in the middle really represents your own personal DNA and resilience. And you can see on the left, the negative experiences sometimes can be balanced and even buffered by positive supports. And we refer to those positive supports as protective factors when we're talking to folks like you. And when we're talking to families, we call them the domains of wellness. So you may hear me use those two terms interchangeably, but we know that there are 7 items, 7 things that can actually build resilience and buffer trauma. The one with the most profound and widely discussed literature is supportive relationships. And those, and really, it only takes one supportive relationship in a child's life. One meaningful, lasting, supportive relationship. And I just want to pause for a moment because I know that for many of your clients and your kids and your teams, that their relationships with you all at the Boys and Girls Club, you are that supportive relationship. And I just really want to honor that and share a moment of gratitude with you for the work you do. You do change people's lives. I know that you know that, but I just, for all the moments that you don't get told that, I just want to be the voice today that says thank you and tell you that you are building resilience in your community every day, even during COVID when you've been reaching out remotely and via Skype and on the phone. You've been building resilience and buffering trauma. So I just want to thank you for that. We also know that eating healthy, so good nutrition and sleeping well, using movement or exercise, practicing mindfulness, supporting mental health, and spending time in nature all build resilience and buffer trauma. So these things help combat, these are those positive supports that combat ACEs and toxic stress, or the impact of ACEs and toxic stress. Now, let's talk briefly for a moment about principles, some of the core principles of trauma-informed care. Safety. So I know that all of you have been trained on how to de-escalate conflicts, and you have policies and procedures on how to handle conflicts when they arise between your clients. That's really important for kids to feel like they're in a safe place. And we'll talk about that some more with regard to some of the new procedures you're going to have to enact as you reopen. Trustworthiness and transparency. So having a family-friendly roadmap on how kids come into your sites, how you interact with parents, making sure that parents know what types of activities are going on, who you have staffing, the security and the checks and balances you have in place with making sure you have the right staff with the right kids and the right kids with the right other kids in place, and transparency when any events occur that might need to be disclosed or talked about. Oops, sorry about that. Things happen in organizations. Kids fall down, injuries occur, a fight may occur, but just being transparent in those discussions and disclosures. Peer support is a key principle of a trauma-informed facility. So making sure that not only your clients are supported, but also making sure that you're supporting each other, and family growth as you work through your goals at the organization and work to meet your mission. Collaboration and mutuality. That word's giving me a hard time today. So making sure that you incorporate the voices of your community in your activities, in your programming, and that's often done through a patient or a client advisory committee. I know that you guys do seek a lot of feedback in your programming from the kids and work with them directly to make sure that they have a voice in many things. And that carries on directly to the next 2 points. And those are just empowerment, giving voice and a choice to not only your service community, but also your staff, and then honoring your cultural, historical, or gender issues in the community. Particularly, we like we mention things around gender discrimination because you need to understand what's happened in your community, and nobody better than you guys. Certainly, I don't know all of the issues. I have a sense of the Detroit culture, but I'm no expert in that. You are. So you understand some of the historical trauma that has occurred in your community so that you can be a leader in preventing re-traumatization. So things that might trigger events or dates that you know where there was a particular difficult or challenging day in your community around violence, and that day comes around every year and it gets talked about in the media. How are you going to buffer that so that your kids are not re-traumatized? So things like that are important to consider in a trauma-informed organization. So I have the top two bullets highlighted because these are the two we're going to talk more about today. And in our second session, we'll talk more, I promise. We'll get to the second two bullets in a much more meaningful way. So today I really want to help you think about how we can consider the widespread impact of COVID-19 and other traumatic events in your community or experiences your individual clients have had so that we can journey with them on a path to recovery. And then recognize the signs and symptoms of trauma in everyone you're dealing with, not only your clients and your families, your kids and your families, but amongst each other. Oftentimes, when you work with families that have had or clients that have had higher rates of adverse childhood experiences or higher rates of toxic stress, we can be triggered. Our own adversities can be re-triggered and we can be re-traumatized. So having that self-awareness and social awareness, components of emotional intelligence to see in your colleague, something's not right with you today, what's going on, and reaching out in a non-judgmental and supportive and caring way are going to be really important, and to do that with our kids as well. So let's talk more specifically about how things may have, how our reality may have been impacted by COVID-19. So what we're seeing in kids of the older school aged is a little bit more open expression about feeling sad or mad. And so I would just really encourage you to encourage kids to talk about that, but they may be a little bit more overt in their expression of anxiety and stress related to COVID. The other thing I'm finding, even with my own child, is that their peers are sharing false information. And so we have to be, as caregivers, we've got to be a source of truth and correct information. Correct information decreases anxiety. And so we really need to keep up and provide accurate and not misleading information. And then, you know, they may want to focus on the details, and they may want to talk about it all the time, and they may have trouble disengaging over their anxiety about COVID-19. And that may lead to trouble concentrating. And so I'd really ask that, you know, if you find one of your kids really ruminating, just thinking about this continuously, it'll be really important for you to deploy your distraction techniques, which I know you guys are great at, getting them engaged in an activity and redirecting them to something more positive. For our teens and our preteens, we're really seeing less of the overt emotional expression, but more of the acting out, having a little bit more tune. And I know that you guys have probably seen this in many other ways. They can be afraid to leave home. They may want to kind of nest there, and they may even have some difficulty re-engaging with their friends. I get a sense from the discussions that I've had with Russell and Chris that your kids are really eager to come back, and I think that's a really positive thing. It speaks to how connected they are to you all and your centers, and how much they see those centers and your sites themselves as home. So I just kudos to the amazing work you guys are doing. But keep in mind, they still may feel overwhelmed with intense emotions when they come back, and that may play out with increased arguing and fighting. Just that opposition, questioning everything we ask them to do, or asking why. Those are all really common responses to heightened stress, and things that clinicians and adolescent and childhood experts are seeing and discussing in the literature right now. This is a great diagram that I picked up while doing some research. And I think this is really accurate. I see this and I hear this in my own house and from my friends who have other children as well. So, a lot of anger, and frustration with the technology or things that don't work, resisting the new order, really bargaining about, that in many ways what we're going through with COVID-19 is a loss. It's a loss of our freedom and our normal functioning. So we're going to see some of those stages of grief play into the way we all respond. And so resisting the new order is really that same sense of bargaining. I'm not going to do the 4 math problems, but I'll do 1. Fatigue, my goodness, I've been struggling with this myself, just immense fatigue. And so having just to remind myself to get up and move and not stay seated on my computer working for 8 hours. So really keeping those kids moving will be important. Numbing out, that displaced frustration, and boredom. And we know that oftentimes for kids, when they're really complaining about I'm bored, sometimes that can really be code for I'm sad or I'm anxious and restless. So at the Center for Youth Wellness, we really believe firmly. We have a couple of pillars in our work where we discuss how important screening is so that you can have conversations with families about how to manage and buffer toxic stress. And the way to do that is through the domains of wellness. So we have produced a specific caregiver toolkit, which is really directed more towards families, but it's a toolkit regarding the domains of wellness and COVID-19. We're going to provide that toolkit for you. It's about 9 one-page sheets, and you can hand them out to your kids, send it home with them. But today I'm going to walk you through each of those sheets and the domains of wellness on how to manage stress. And then we're going to talk about ways that you can deal with those as appropriate in your settings, in your clinics, in your sites and in your community centers. But first, I came up with this acronym about how to deal with the new normal at the Boys and Girls Clubs. And it's, just be true. I had a wonderful opportunity to talk to Chris and Russell while we were planning this training. And, I was asking them about giving hugs and how you guys are going to greet each other. And I know that that's a big part of your community, and your kiddos are they need hugs, many of them. Heck, I need a hug right now. Social distancing in this isolation is very challenging. So as you open back up, be honest about what you miss. Talk about the changes in your programming. Have an open dialogue with your kids that's thoughtful and just is transparent about the things you miss. And then quickly transition that. It's okay to talk about that and express those feelings for a moment, but then encourage hope and laughter and talk about how can we still do the things that we love to do here and have fun. So that's the be part, be true. And then talk about how things are different, how you're not going to greet each other with hugs. Talk about how some of your programming might be different, social distancing. Reinforce the positive aspects of getting back together and in person. It's really easy for teenagers to say, yeah, well, we may be able to get out of the house and come back here, but it's not the same. It's not like it was. So you're going to have to reinforce the positive things that have occurred by letting us go out and re-engage in the community. And then understand and share your understanding about how you're going to keep them safe while they come back. So how you're going to screen as they come in, how you're taking temperatures, how you're cleaning surfaces. Just make sure that they understand how you are keeping them safe. And then last but not least, I'm just going to say, everybody be patient and forgiving. Ask the kids to treat each other patiently and with grace, because it's going to take some adjusting too. Things aren't going to look the same. That doesn't mean they can't be better on the other side of this. So those are just my little talking points to be true. Just a couple of things to take with you as you open up in the next couple of days, and are thinking about ways that you need to address some of the things within your programs. All right, on to the domains of wellness. As I mentioned before, supportive relationships are the most widely researched protective factor as far as combating toxic stress and buffering trauma. So this is the patient or the client handout that we have developed specifically with regard to toxic stress and in the COVID era. So you'll be able to hand this out to your kiddos and or send it home with your family members. And you can see we're still just talking about, on the left side, ways to care for your child, and on the right side, just encouraging parents to take care of themselves as well. So let's talk about how we can enact some of these things within the Boys and Girls Club. As you can see here, I just highlighted again, you may be that supportive person that is buffering, or your staff certainly are. And so don't be afraid to just really ask open questions. You can't reassure someone until you find out what they're worried about. I know we've all experienced people that want to give us advice before they even know what's wrong. And so here are a couple of conversation openers, and I think it would be good to have a huddle every morning as your supportive person. If you don't do this already, do the check-in and the check-out every day. That'll be really important in the beginning, in the first couple of weeks. Tell me what it's been like. There's been a lot of talk about coronavirus. Tell me what you're hearing. This is a good way for you to get some of the misinformation that your kids have heard so that you can correct it, and then follow up with, how does that make you feel? And then, again, redirect to some positive things. Again, keep information accurate, simple, useful. The CDC has wonderful handouts on ways to talk to kids about COVID, and we certainly can share those with you if you haven't already seen them or don't have some guidance there available to you already. But make sure that you are the trustworthy source. So you do need to keep informed, and don't be afraid. Again, think back to those principles of a trauma-informed organization. Don't be afraid to be transparent. If a kid or a teen hits you up with something that you have not heard or you don't know about, say, I haven't heard about that. I'm going to look that up and I'll get back to you. And then, hold your promise and do circle back around and do that in a way that everybody gets to hear the new information and sees you did what you said you would do, and you were honest when you said you didn't know, and you went and found out that information. So you are the trustworthy source. Those will be really important things for you all to do. A couple of other things to think about as you are that supportive person for your clients. Let the kids and the teens lead the discussion. Provide answers to their questions, and then wait and see if there are additional questions. Oftentimes as adults, I know I can launch into problem-solving mode and start sharing facts and a lot of information, and then I can see that my kiddo is like glazed over, and I lost her about 5 minutes ago. So share facts and resolve those fears, and then wait and see if they want more answers. So I would encourage you to do that. Validate their concerns. They may have some real ones, and you won't know what they are until you hear them out. And then, this is going to be really important. Be aware of what you're projecting. Those kids take cues from you, and your energy and your anxiety, both the good and the bad, are always contagious. So be that calm voice in the storm. It's okay to say, I've had concerns. Yeah, it's been hard. That's transparency. But if you're really struggling, tap out of the ring and get a buddy to come in and give yourself a break and do a little bit of self-care so you can re-engage when you're at your best. The next domain of wellness is supporting mental health. And so again, this handout that we'll be providing to you on the left talks about how parents and caregivers can address concerns about mental health, watching for signs of worry, talking about feelings, and then really accessing resources, additional resources if you need them. And then in the orange box on the right, recognizing your own stress and some resources there. So let's talk about that for you guys in the clubs. So watch for signs of anxiety within your clients, and really give them a chance to express that worry, reassure them, and then kind of keep going, redirect them. Again, we've talked about keeping kids safe, but really we are battling two enemies here, not only COVID, but the anxiety about it. So make sure that your clients feel in control and that they have things that they can do. Remind them about hand hygiene, coughing into a tissue or their elbow. Even engage them in helping to clean their surfaces or surfaces in the building. Using hand sanitizer or washing hands. Just, make light of how you are keeping each other, not make light, but call out how you're keeping each other safe by washing your hands. I've seen some cute things where kids and in groups or families are talking about, hey, I care about you, I just washed my hands. Do you care about me? So just really being intentional in your discussion about how you're working to keep them safe and keep their environments safe. Let them know what to expect. Talk about some creative ways that you're going to greet each other through social distancing. And then, really practice empathy. There, I'm sure, are clients that you'll have coming back that have lost friends and family members to COVID. And so just really allowing them to have the full expression of those emotions with empathy and as you always do in practice, without judgment or minimizing. But again, think about as your kids may be having some challenges to their mental health right now during this stressful time. Think about those stages of grief too. The bargaining, the anger, the denial, and helping them to get to acceptance and what the new normal is, and that we can find joy in the new normal. The next domain of wellness is using mindfulness. I know that you all have probably heard about many of these things, like belly breathing or deep breathing, the grounding technique 5-4-3-2-1, and gratitude. Now, I've got some good ideas for you to use all of these in your sites. So, practicing a gratitude jar or a wish tree. So getting a huge piece of paper and drawing a tree with limbs and letting the kids put something they're thankful for or something they're looking forward to once that we're not under social distancing. Maybe having a birthday party with more than 2, 5, or 10 friends over, whatever that is. Being able to go back and eat at their restaurant. So a gratitude jar at the beginning or end of the day where they write something they're thankful for on a piece of paper can help ground them in the good things in life. Practicing gratitude helps to reset your reality that not everything is gloom and doom, and we know how during this developmental stage kids often can think very black and white and not see the gray. Practice grounding. The 5 senses exercise is over here on the right. So when kids are really feeling a little bit overwhelmed, just to hold up your fist. It's not the corporate fist of 5 that you may know about, but I often do this in groups with my kids. If we're having a rough time or things are just a little bit too chaotic and out of control, I'll have them sit down and I hold up my fist and I held up my 5 fingers and I say, let's talk about 5 things we can see. And, I'll just point to kids or, call them by name and get them to tell me something. And take a minute of silence and let them think about their 4 or 5 things. And then, hold up my 4 fingers and say, 4 things you can feel, and ask them to call them out, and so on. This just helps to ground you in reality. It helps to cut back on the what if, what I call the monkey brain, that really just that chatter in my head and the clanging and the ruminating that I can't slow down. Grounding really helps with that. And then belly breathing. You can use all kinds of techniques. My favorite one is to think about having a balloon in my belly and really taking a deep breath in to expand that balloon, fill that balloon up, and watch my belly puff out, and then breathing out slowly. If I can count to 4 or 5 while I'm doing that, while the balloon deflates. That helps rebalance your hormones. It helps to calm your brain, slow your sympathetic nervous system down, and really helps to get you back in balance. All of those activities you can practice in the club, and we'll come up with more for the next session as well. So clearly, you guys use a lot of movement on a regular basis, and that will be important as you open back up, dispersed throughout the day. As you see the kids getting restless, you may want to, start a dance party, do a freeze dance where the DJ turns the music off, that type of thing. And this handout is available for you. I didn't go over particular items that you could utilize, and I am running short on time. Sleep is important. I just want to highlight this for you. It's actually one of the most important things that can combat stress. I don't think you probably do a lot of nap time there, but I wanted to provide that for you. And then good nutrition. So thinking about those healthy snacks as you work with your kids and are coming back. Spending time in nature, going on a scavenger hunt, those types of things. And we'll come up with some more ideas as we work through our next session. I know we've got about 8 to 10 minutes, so I'm going to stop here and unmute. We'll unmute all of your mics and give you some chance to ask some questions. And then I'd like to get some feedback from you as well on what you'd like to hear more about in our next session. And let me just add, if you don't have a chance to ask your question today, or you think of something later in the day or over the next couple of days, please feel free to shoot your questions. I'm calling you out, to Russell or Chris, and they'll forward them to me, and I'll make sure that we address them in our next session.
Sounds good.
All right. Any questions for me or comments?
I have a question. This is Janae from Doubt. As we're implementing these strategies with our youth, how can we involve like their families and their caregivers with this as well? Because we're trying to be more like well-rounded with not just, focusing on our kids.
Absolutely. So Janae, the COVID toolkit, the individual pages I went through, we'll send that to you in PDF so you can send it home. And we also have kind of a 2-pager on how to answer questions about COVID, like literally medical questions that we've written. We'll send that to you as well. And I think it'll be important for you guys to review those so you can answer those questions, but then also really encourage your parents to think about those domains of wellness and little things that they can do to help decrease the stress. Or you can say, if that word stress is looked at negatively in your community, just to say help to build resilience or make your family healthier. During COVID, you can talk about those 7 domains: sleep, nutrition, movement, going outside, those things, and they'll have individual handouts with tips on each one of them. That's a great question, though, Janae.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't have any questions. This is Tiffany, but I just wanted to comment that I really love this training. I have a 7-year-old. Well, she'll be 8 on Saturday, but anyway, I have a 7-year-old, and just thinking about interacting with her and just trying to kind of giving me like a framework and some things to keep in mind with that. And this whole thing was really eye-opening and educational, and I appreciate it. And I'm going to be going back and looking over it again just to kind of keep these things in the forefront personally and professionally. So thank you for this.
Thank you, Tiffany. And we have also recorded today, and we will send you the recording so that if you want to listen to it, or if there was a staff member that wasn't able to participate, it can be shared with them. I really appreciate that feedback. we've got a few more minutes. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, well, I'm sorry, was somebody about to speak? Okay, I'm gonna ask a couple of things of you guys. For the next session, I was really hoping to talk a little bit more about trauma-informed care practices and self-care for you guys. Talk about burnout and compassion fatigue. How we can make the Boys and Girls Club more trauma-informed, and talk about specific strategies. And then maybe if you think about some difficult or challenging examples with your teens as you've reopened and can shoot those to Russell and Chris, we could kind of talk through some of those, what you might do differently, what you did great. This is sort of the thought for the next talk, but I really want to make it meaningful and customized for you guys. So it's not today's objectives. I was just trying to get prepared for next time. If these things don't resonate with you, really feel free to share that today, or let me know what you'd like to hear more of, or again, feel free to shoot that to Russell. We've got a couple minutes, so I really would love to hear any feedback you may have for me regarding the next session. I know it's a lot to take in. If you want to send those thoughts via email, that would be great. So I recommended that you close out or start out your day, with a check-in and a check-out and maybe a moment of gratitude. We've got about 1 minute left. I'd like to share a moment of gratitude with all of you all and just tell you how thankful I am that you are there, caring for, showing compassion, and loving your city and your community members, each area that you're in, and for everything that you do. And I look forward to talking to you guys in a couple weeks and making this a meaningful time for us all. I really do appreciate your time today, and take care. I'll be thinking about you in the next week as you're opening up, and sending you love and light.
Thank you.
Carissa.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Carissa. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.